I mentioned this so many times, she put blindfolds on us and had us stand in front of things and with charcoal and put items in our hands and said, draw what you feel. And I was so lost because it was totally out of my comfort zone, and my insecurity rose up, and I thought, well, I don't know how to do this. And I remember thinking, no one can tell me how I feel, you know, and that's kind of profound in another sense. And I started making this work that I'd never made before. And that pushed me to share that information and make other students feel that uncomfortableness so that they find a way into it.
To go back to what you were saying, that class that you took that got you out of your comfort zone, you said no one could tell me what I feel, and it was sort of like when you got in touch with your feeling, you started making art, right? It was from the feeling, not from the seeing?
Well, I had always done illustration and drawing with the idea of creating something beautiful, with the idea that I needed to impress, and this had to be perfect, and these are all the techniques, and you know, hit this mark and that mark, and making the illustration. And this class, there were no rules. I didn't understand fine art or drawing or getting in touch with your feelings. And I primarily went back to study fine arts because it was the 90s, late 90s, and I had come back from Milano, living there and working, and fashion illustration was dead, and the AIDS crisis was, you know, at its peak, and my friends were dying, and I wanted to paint that, to find my voice, and it wasn't possible through fashion illustration. So I thought, let me go into fine arts and see what happens. So that's how it was profound, because through that process of letting go of my preconceived notions, of making work and having the ideal piece be beauty based upon what I understood as beauty rather than inside, that's what I meant when I said that was very profound, when I came to the conclusion no one could tell me what I felt.
It seemed like a really courageous act to go back to school after having worked as a professional illustrator for many years.
I learned long ago to let go of my ego in taking classes. When I first graduated from FIT, I kept taking classes to get better. And I remember I took a class, that same teacher I mentioned earlier, and at FIT, they would let me come in the evening for free to come into the class to draw because I was better. And I was almost a guide for the students that were there. I had been out of school 2 years. And students would come around and they would say, oh, I love that piece. And it felt good, you know, we want to be appreciated. And I was working in magic marker and I wanted to change medium. And so I wanted to do watercolor and inks, primarily watercolor at that point. But I was afraid that if I did it, the work would not look so good. So I had this dilemma, and what do I do if it sucks and it's in class and it would look good? And I don't know where, but luckily this voice came on my shoulder and said, Bill, if you are going to proceed down this path and not take a risk to grow, you'll never get anywhere. So I got the watercolor, I went to the class, I started painting. And the work was just, it sucked. It was just horrible. But then I got better. And the student said to me, oh, aren't you using that other marker I like? And I said, no, I'm trying something. And it got better. And it taught me a lesson that you can't live in fear. You know, you can't allow your ego to dictate how you're going to grow. It's not going to nurture your talent. So I don't consider it courageous. I consider it just a necessity and a responsibility of me to nurture my talent as best I can, and if it means going back to a class, I do it, you know?
That's great, yeah. It's interesting. It just makes me think as an artist about a lot of stuff about that. That's an amazing piece of advice, I think, of not letting your ego dictate your growth.
Yeah, because, you know, we have a gift. It's a gift to be able to see differently, and whether it's film or dance or music. And not many people have that gift to the extent that we do, that it's our passion. And with that comes a responsibility. A, to share it, definitely to share it. And B, to nurture it. you know, and maybe more things, but definitely explore different possibilities, grow, but primarily to share it, to pass it on. You know, somebody gave it to us.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to remember those moments in class when that teacher said something and perhaps it went over your head, but 3 months later it hit and you were like, oh my God, that information is just so valuable. We need to share that history and that information. So
I think it's the most generous way to teach is to simply share what you know.
I think most teachers do.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that. I don't know of any teacher who doesn't do that.
Withholds, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're withholding, then you're not really
What's the point?
teaching.
Yeah.
You have to give everything.
Do you think that teaching makes you a better artist?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I think teaching young people instills a bit of energy. It makes me see things differently. And when I first started teaching, I was a bit strict. And I gave projects and with specific instructions and what I was looking for. And this was conceptual work. It wasn't fashion. And students would come in and someone would be, well, that's not really what I'm looking for. And I had a class where I gave a project and this young lady came in and she had cotton balls attached to this piece and it was totally ridiculous. It was totally crazy, but it was so unique and inventive. And I knew that she invested a lot of time in it. And I thought, you need to be open to other possibilities of people seeing, you know, as a teacher for the projects.
Yeah.
You know, that not everybody's going to do it in the manner that you're trying to get them to do, and make that allowance for somebody who sees things differently.
Yeah. So it sounds very similar to your artistic journey too, of just opening up and seeing new ways of students bringing you work, of your own work, so opening your own mind as well.
Open your own mind, yeah, of course.
But I'm not going to take 2 hours, but I'm really curious. That can sort of be the teaching section in a way. I'm curious in terms of the art making. Just as an exploration, what is the difference in your mind between fine art and illustration, if there is one?
Yeah, there totally is difference. Not speaking to the art form, not speaking to the talent or the draftsmanship or skill set involved, but speaking to where the vision comes from. And ideally, fine art comes from your soul. It comes from inside, with the sole purpose of communicating something that you need to communicate without the idea that you need to garner an audience. And whereas illustration is for a particular audience and client and fulfills a need, fine art, you know, is just for the soul. So to me, that's the difference. My personal work is dark sometimes, a lot of times, dark poetry, but it's not for anyone but me to communicate my life experiences. And what I discovered is if I am true to my soul in communicating that, I will garner an audience because it resonates with certain people. Not everybody, not everyone, but certain people it will speak to. And I'm just sharing what I have experienced personally. My fashion, my commercial work, the ideal is beauty for me. I love color, I love nature, I love women. I just think they are just these incredible creatures that just, you know, make the world so much shine. And I grew up with, you know, my mom. I was the only boy in my family, and my 2 sisters and their friends. So I understood I had this attraction to the beauty and the process of women and their mystique. And I try to capture that magic in my fashion. That's the goal for me, to try to capture that moment, you know, when a woman walks in a room and regardless of age, and she just has something. And you just turn and look and say, oh my God, look at her, you know. I want people to feel that when I do the fashion. So the personal work is for me and, you know, sharing my life stories.
Yeah. To this similar question of sort of the difference between similar things, do you make any distinction between drawing and painting?
I do. Drawing, to me, is a bit more physical and emotional because, as I think in one of the demos, I talked about scoring the paper. And if I'm making personal work, and even when I'm drawing fashion, I can't explain this exactly because I don't understand how, but I feel it inside. And I can feel that more with the pencil or charcoal when I'm drawing. And I can feel it, and it goes in, and it's from the gut.
Yeah.
And painting, you can't score it so much. No, it's a brush and it's fluid, maybe some energy,
Yeah.
but to feel that internal connection, I find drawing is much more sufficient in responding to that than to throw down a wash or paint.
Thank you for trying to get in there because it's a tricky line
It's
between the two,
no,
right?
it's fine. I mean, I've thought about that, and I talk about that a lot. So when I do my personal work, I really score the paper. You know, I have these models, and they wear masks, and they take dangerous poses, or threatening, or humble poses, and I can feel that internal.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe I'm projecting, but I can feel with my pencil, my charcoal.
We talked about this the other day, just in the most positive light. How important is the model?
Extremely important. Extreme. The energy, the flow between the artist and the model. It's a dance. My God, it's a dance. It's a beautiful dance. And if you have a great model and they're responding, and you know, a model can take a pose and just go like that, and everything changes, or that, in a split second. And that spontaneity and that energy and that angle, I think it challenges the artist to be on their game and to be alive. And you don't get that from drawing from a photo. You know, it has to be live.
Do you see, living in New York, do you just see people all the time that inspire you on the street, fashion-wise?
I do. I draw on the street. I draw people. I document. I go to tickets in Times Square, and there's tons of people, and I draw them. You know, paint them, and I take my students there, and we do the buildings and the energy.
Yeah.
I've done live events. I'm hired to document what's happening at the event. I did Fashion Week in New York for New York Magazine, and I had asked, can I go behind the scenes? I didn't want to sit on the runway and do a fashion sketch. I wanted to capture like the models before they go outside, on the runway, on the catwalk, or people doing hair and makeup. That's exciting to me. Documentary drawing or painting is exciting.
Moving a little bit towards maybe the third part of this, which is what advice do you have for young folks who want to illustrate?
Well, patience.
Okay.
And patience and patience. But follow your passion, you know, nurture your skill set, and make sure that once you're studying at one institution of learning, at a college or something, that you leave and go to another school, so that you don't come out with the same template as everyone from SVA or RISD or FIT or SCAD or Ringling Brothers or any of the schools that are known for illustration. Because every school has a template, and the students all come out and they have their portfolio filled with that. So how do they differentiate their work to make it more unique from someone else's? And my experience has been to study with different teachers in different schools. So I've done them all.
Do you think that every student should go to school?
For drawing?
Every student who wants to go into the business should go to school for to learn their craft.
I can't speak for every student. I can't. But I can only speak for myself that I wanted to know everything so that I had the confidence to make decisions to break the rules. And I thought to myself, if you don't know the rules, then you can't break them. But once you know the rules and once you're confident and secure, you can discard those rules. So to me, it's like doing modern dance. I'm sure that, you know, some people will go in and just start dancing, but why not get a foundation in classical dance?
Yeah.
And then stylize it. The same with illustration for me. Learn anatomy, learn how to draw the figure, take your draftmanship skills, and then discard it. You know, that knowledge is there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and then make work on your own.
And just as a final question, I told myself, do not ask a question about AI, so I'm not going to. But the question I will ask, just shy of that, is what's wrong and what's right with Instagram?
With Instagram, social media?
Because that's the one that seems to really be I make my picture and I put it out into the world and I share it. What is good about that and what is bad about that? Maybe for students and maybe for yourself.
So the bad about that is that there's some work out there that people who are mediocre will place on Instagram, and it becomes a social contest. And I've seen work of people that have done that don't really have the skill set. There's a lot of camouflage, a lot of colors, and trees or whatever. Just I call it camouflage, because if you strip away all that and you look at what they've drawn, it's not a good drawing. It's not an informed drawing. It's not a drawing that stands on its own, that has a foundation. To me, that's one of the maybe negative aspects of Instagram, but it's far outweighed by the positive aspects that people from all over the world can connect and be on here and be inspired. And if you're smart enough, you'll filter through that, and eventually time and history will show you where the good work is. I've seen many artists, because I'm a certain age, come along who had a very wonderful style, let's say, but it was very limited, and some of it was that camouflage. Some of it was, you know, all the noise to distract from what was really there. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, let's see if time, you know, how it works over time. They're not around. They're not showing, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Because that noise eventually dissipates, and what you're left with is a bad drawing or an illustration that isn't informed. So again, that's why I advise people who are pursuing, go to school, learn the foundation, learn something. So you have that, and then discard it if you want.
If only to get the confidence in yourself.
To get the confidence, and also to have more leeway in how to shape and paint and draw and compose your figure or your illustration.
Yeah.
You know, there's knowledge. Knowledge is power. So whatever you do with it is up to you. But I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that has always driven me, and I have a passion for learning, and I love being in a studio class with other people drawing. It's magic, as you know.
Yeah.
It's magical. We sit in a circle, there's a model in front of us, and we all draw from life. Not through AI, not through Procreate, and they're all wonderful. Procreate is great. Digital, AI is a whole nother story, won't touch that. But that idea that we're drawing and looking and communicating something with our eye, through our head, through our shoulder, through our hand, that's in front of us, I get the chills still. Think of it. It's magical. And I love magic.